You're very welcome indeed to Toastmasters Unplugged. This is episode 13. And what have we in store for you this evening, you may well ask? Well, we're very fortunate indeed to have the winners of the 4 district contests that took place recently in District 71. And I'll be talking to them, each of them individually. So we'll have a little session one-on-one. And then I'll bring them all back at the end and we'll have a group discussion on various topics. Now, if you have any questions out there in the big bad world, feel free to type them into us. You'll see the opportunity there to type them into the chat wherever you are. Elizabeth Jordan, fast off the mark immediately. There we are. Look at that, just to show you how I can highlight the messages when they come in from you. So feel free to put forward your questions. As I said, every year there are tens of thousands of people around the world, Toastmasters, who enter the 4 different contests that we run. And we have stats on the International Speech Contest where 20,000 people enter that contest. 20,000. And they whittle them down round by round until, like Highlander, there is only one. Now, our representative in District 71 this year delivered a stunning speech. And you will be fascinated to hear her talk and explain where that inspiration came from, how long she's been in Toastmasters, and loads of other questions. So if you have questions for her, as I say, slip them into the chat when I introduce her. So could I welcome to the stage our very first guest this evening, and it's Coletta Gumbo. Lovely to see you, Coletta.
Good to see you, Anthony. Thank you for having me.
Not at all. Now, we've been fortunate to have a chat on more than one occasion. Indeed, You put me personally to the sword and dispatched me elegantly in the district final with a splendid speech. But I'd like you to tell people to begin with what club you're from, and more importantly, how long you've been in Toastmasters.
Thank you very much. I am from Stamford Speakers. That is near Lincoln, and I have been in Toastmasters since last year, August, officially.
Last August?
Yeah.
So you have been in Toastmasters for about a year.
Yeah.
And you won your club contest, you won the area, you won the division contest, and you beat a whole lot of us in the district contest to be our district champion. Wow.
Thank you.
Listen, tell us a little bit about your speech and the message that you wanted to share with the world that earned you that accolade. Because in my personal opinion, you were the clear winner on the day.
Thank you very much. Right. My speech was on an incident that I went through with my family, and that is a fire that occurred back in my home country, Zimbabwe. And in this speech, I narrate how I escaped. I highlighted my family's experience, both my parents, my sister, and I even go on to explain the effects of that incident, that tragedy on our lives. But the biggest message I wanted people to see after hearing all of that, or what I wanted people to take away the most, was the fact that there was hope at the end of the day. We had people who helped us. And that is what I remember the most. And that is what impacted me the most over the incident itself, the fact that people stepped in to help. And so I wanted each person to know that despite all the tragedies that we have going on in our personal lives and in the world, there are a lot of good people out there, and that there is an opportunity for us to be that bright light for other people in the community.
Fantastic, Coletta. And as I said, it was the clear winner on the night. Now, you might, just because I have a big booming voice, you might just speak up a tiny little bit.
Okay, absolutely.
I managed to shout most people out of it. So just so those of us who, like me, are hard of hearing can hear at the back of the room.
That's
Tell
okay.
one of the secrets of your success, and I know this because I've talked to you, so you
Yeah,
might explain the importance of this to us,
yeah.
is the fact that you had an awesome mentor who helped you with various iterations of the speech. So,
Mm.
can you shout out to the mentor and explain what their role is and why it was so important in your success?
Thank you very much. I had James Herford, Distinguished Toastmaster James, from my club Stamford Speakers as my mentor. And I owe a big part of my success to him because James was the he had foresight obviously of the contest. I had no idea what these contests were, so he was like the person who went before me and you know did research on what knew what I needed to do. And the biggest thing he did as well was bring the story out of me. We used to have so many sessions, not even crafting the speech, but just reliving and walking through the speech. And it helped me gain clarity on what mattered to me. And I believe the biggest thing, the most beautiful thing that James did as we were preparing for the contest was he always checked and made sure that I was comfortable and happy with what I wanted to share. James' goal for me wasn't to wow or bedazzle, it was to show my most authentic self, and that was what we went with. And so, if there was a part of the speech that we wrote that I said, well, I don't quite feel this, even if it was brilliant, we'll take it out, which helped me deliver that speech in a very honest and thoughtful and truly engaging way.
Well, Colliser, here's a question that I get asked a lot when competing in the contest. So I'm going to ask you the same question. Did your speech change much from the club through to the area, through to the division and the district? Because if you think about it, if you're giving a speech at the club level and there's maybe 20 people in the room, that's a very different experience to speaking in front of 200 people at the district final. So, did it change much through those different contest levels?
Certainly, my club and area speech structure was relatively the same, and I hadn't started working with James by then. It was only after area and I'm beginning to realize that, well, this is serious. I need to up my game. James and I started working on the speech. But interestingly, what only changed was where I started in the speech compared to club and area. It was just the beginning of the speech that changed, and perhaps the ending is what I tweaked a bit. But if you heard it from club up until district, it was the same message, the same content, really, just refined.
Right, lovely, lovely. So there is again the mentor stepping in and helping out. There is a very important part of. It's almost like having a manager,
Yeah,
or an agent,
yeah.
to get you through to the next level. Now, if you don't mind me saying so, I think there's possibly a couple of years between us. Maybe you're a little bit, the whisker younger than me. I mean, I'd show you the perfect black hair. Do you mind me being rude and ask a question I rarely ask of a woman? How old are you?
I am 20 years old, Anthony. Not that much younger than you, am I?
No, no, I'm 23 here. But I
Yeah,
mean, that is astonishing. So your first 12 months in Toastmasters at the age of 20,
yeah,
you have blasted through the various competitions and become the district champion. Can I ask you, because the demographic, the age group of people who turn up at Toastmasters meetings, a little bit higher than 20.
yeah.
What is it as a young person that attracted you to Toastmasters in the first place?
Right. Thank you. That's a brilliant question. Well, it's really simple because I believe Toastmasters is really a hidden secret, and I'm hoping with my winning and everybody else's input, we can spread Toastmasters out there way more outside of our community. I honestly went on Google and searched how to become a better speaker, and Toastmasters popped up. And well, one thing I've told myself is I just throw myself in the deep end. So when I attended my first meeting, I said I'll go there and find out what actually happens in these meetings. Lo and behold, it was one of the best decisions I made last year. And certainly the environment is warm, it's welcoming, it's a judgment free zone. It's a perfect place for you to grow and learn without feeling any harshness or any negative energy. And the feedback as well, most importantly, is what actually helps you to propel. And so you know that you have the feedback, you have the accountability, and that is exactly what I needed at that stage in my life when I joined Toastmasters last year.
Lovely, and I think you'll be a fantastic ambassador for Toastmasters, and I'd love to see Toastmasters reach out to your demographic, because I think college students, for example, who've lots of presentations to do,
Yeah.
they could really benefit from it. And a lot of job interviews are kind of done in this little rectangular box now. So I think if you were adept and skillful at using this new technology, it would be a big help to you. So I see a bright future for you down that road if you're interested.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's something I look forward to, definitely.
Listen, a couple of final questions just before I bring our next victim into the studio. When you're sitting there
Yeah.
and you're listening to the speeches, and you're thinking, are you thinking to yourself, oh, that speech is very good, oh, that's or are you thinking, yeah, that guy's he's not so hot, I can relax a little bit? So is there a winning mentality in there all the time, or are you more relaxed about it, que sera sera?
There's no way you can be relaxed about a competition, especially a district. Well, from club to area, it was kind of, yeah, yeah, I think I've got a shot here, maybe one or two people. And then when I got to division, even if you see all the videos when I react to hearing my name, obviously I'm aspiring to win, but it's a shock because after you hear people's speeches and you are genuinely moved and impressed, that's the thing. It's not as though you have some inferior complex going on. The other speeches are genuinely that good to you as you listen as a contestant yourself. Yeah, I was shocked, especially districts. It was phenomenal. The competition itself, the level of competition was excellent.
Well, the level of competition was indeed excellent, but there was no doubt in my mind, had I been a judge, that was the correct result that they meted out that evening, and you were a worthy winner. So for now, Collater, thank you very, very much indeed. I wish you the best of luck in the future stages of the contest. Keep us posted on how that goes, and for now, we'll see you back here in the panel discussion. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, Anthony.
So if the backroom team look at that, they before I even ask, as if by magic, David McRae appears. And David, I know you because you have pitched up at Shilling Speakers in District 91, which I'm a member of. I am also a member of Tralee Toastmasters in District 71. They'd never forgive me if I didn't mention them down in the southwest of Ireland. But David, I want you to share with everyone what club you're from and how long you've been in Toastmasters.
Yeah, I'm a good old dual member. My physical club is Haymarket Toastmasters in Edinburgh, and my online club is Edinburgh Advanced Toastmasters. Technically Edinburgh, but also everywhere as well. And I'm about to have my 9th Toastmasters birthday in August.
Oh, many happy returns. Many happy returns. I'm delighted for you. And I noticed on your LinkedIn page, and LinkedIn pages are wonderful things to navigate through, that you have 23 contest awards. 23.
Oh, 23. I'd love for it to be 23. It depends when you start counting. So I have won the division 10 times, which is Scotland. But this is my first district, UK and Ireland. So I've been working on getting to district for a while, and then this year I managed to finally cross the line. So yeah, I'd say 11 national contest wins, and obviously a few more when you count every contest
Brilliant.
I've ever been in.
And because you enter so many contests every year, I think it's important to tell the audience listening that you are the District 71 Evaluation Contest Champion. Right.
Yeah, very
and
happy for you to say that.
What that means, ladies and gentlemen, is, if you haven't seen it, is someone stands up as a test speaker, and they deliver a speech for 7 minutes or so. You're one of a number of people sitting there scribbling notes and trying to organize your thoughts. You're taken outside. You're brought in one by one to face the music. And then it's, as I said, the best person wins in the end. So tell me, did you, in the evaluation contest, were you near the end so you got to hear hardly anybody, or were you at the beginning and you got to hear everyone else?
Yes, I was number 3 out of 9, so I got to hear most people. However, last time I was in the district evaluation contest, I finished second, and first place was a gentleman called Pat Sexton. And Pat was second before me, and I spent the whole contest worrying, what was Pat's evaluation like? What was Pat's evaluation like? And I still don't know what his evaluation was like. I never saw it, but luckily managed to go one better this time round.
Yes, for aficionados of Toastmaster contest, Pat likes to enter the contest, all of them, every year. And you strike me as similar, with similar ambitions.
Yeah, it's some kind of uncategorized disorder, I think, us serial contest entries. We put ourselves through so much stress, working on the speeches, going into contest after contest, jacking up the adrenaline for those small fleeting moments of victory that sometimes come and sometimes don't.
Beautifully put, sir. Now, if I could ask you and try and pin you down on what your technique is for the evaluation contest, because if you haven't seen one, ladies and gentlemen, he's never heard the speech before. Indeed, you normally don't have any idea who the test speaker is, and maybe you're listening to them for the very first time. So I'm assuming that you start off with a blank slate. Do you divide your page up into some kind of arithmetical sequence, or are you just listening for ideas and think, you know what, I'll piece these bits of the jigsaw together as I go along?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of a mosaic going on. So I have a bar at the top of the page, which has the speaker's name and title. You really want to remember the speaker's name when you're on stage, giving them feedback. Don't forget their name. And also the title, just in case that plays into the speech at any point. Oftentimes it's not something you'll mention, but sometimes it is. Below that, I've got 2 boxes. And in that, I write down an idea for how I'm going to start the evaluation and how I'm going to end it. So I try and pick something out of their speech that I can like play on, make a reference to. Underneath those 2 boxes, again, I've got a little banner, which is my transition line. And again, I'll try and pick something out of the speech that gives me a clever transition between talking about their positives, things that they did well, and then ideas for improvement. And the rest of the page is split in 2, and it is those positives and things for improvement. So as I'm watching the speech, I'll go, you know, they did this really well. I write that down in something good to mention. And then I'm thinking about what can I try and improve. So that's my kind of template that I'll then go into the side room. We can talk about the side room a little bit more. And then I work off that template. And then my approach to delivering the evaluation just basically follows that template. Try and have a catchy start, give a couple of positives, have a smooth transition into talking about the improvements, and then try and have a little bit of a catchy end as well.
Lovely. And how much do you consult your notes when you're speaking, or do you lay them to one side and think, well, you know, I'm not speaking for too long. I can speak without them.
Yeah, I don't speak with notes on stage. So again, when you go into the side room, you have a certain amount of time before you come up onto stage. You've got at least 5 minutes plus however many speakers are in front of you. So once I've done my notes, I just kind of sit there in the room, I close my eyes, and I start to envision myself on stage, speaking through all of my different points, where I want to be on stage, how I want to deliver the point. And then by the time I'm coming up onto stage, I've already envisioned what I want to do. And then the notes are at the side, and I just trust myself to go up there and say it how I imagined back in the side room.
Well, that sounds very impressive. But my experience of when you're outside in that kind of ante room with your notes, trying to assemble the structure, is that people are milling around. They're sometimes they're even chatting, which is very distracting, and they're pacing up and down. Do you have like headphones, or do you get into a Zen-like state? I mean, how do you manage to stay focused when you know you've got such a short time before you're back delivering?
So yeah, funny, before the contest, we were doing our contestants briefing, and we had a gentleman's and gentlewoman's agreement. We were talking about like what we actually all preferred when we're in the side room. And some people said, you know, I do like to pace around. And I said, you know, I sit there with my eyes closed. I'm fine if you pace around, but like, please don't talk. I said, that's the thing that really bothers me. And actually everyone else said, yeah, we don't like people talking either. So we had just like a little bit of an agreement between all of us that we wouldn't talk. I think for me, I just go like a little bit almost like antisocial, where when I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, it's pretty clear that I'm not going to engage you in conversation. Then I just, kind of go into my own little space. I do a lot of hiking by myself, so I'm kind of used to just kind of going into that space, going into my mind space. But all the other contestants were very gracious, and we all had like an agreement before we did the contest how we wanted things to be.
And I once asked someone who had finished second in the overall World Championship of Public Speaking whether they were disappointed at coming so close, at being so close and yet so far, or were they thrilled out of 20,000 people they had finished second in the whole wide world? Which where do you tend to finish when or end up when you finish like second in division or district contests?
So it's funny, they did a study on Olympic medalists who's happy after an Olympic medal, and obviously they found the gold is the happiest, but they actually found that the bronze is the second happiest. The bronze person looks at, wow, I managed to beat all these other people and sneak a bronze. Whereas the silver doesn't look at all the people they beat. They look at the one athlete or the one team that they didn't beat. And to be honest, I usually fall into that camp a little bit more. I go, I was so close, but there was something. I believe when you finish second, there's something that you could have done to finish first. I've very rarely, in fact, I don't think I've ever been in the situation where I go, first place was just leagues above me. I go, they did these couple things a little bit better than me. And maybe if I changed these couple of things, the roles could have been reversed. So honestly, I normally fall into a place of regret with second. But yeah, I'm usually chuffed with third. Normally when I finish third, I kind of know that I wasn't good enough to win. Either the speech wasn't good enough, my performance wasn't good enough. But when I finish second, I normally consider that one that slipped away.
Well, I think that's the best tip that you've given us during our discussion together, David, is to learn from each of the speeches that you deliver, look back on them, analyze the competition, and then realize, maybe if I did this different, and that possibly explains the addictive nature of this whole contest and why we keep coming back.
Yeah, I think so. As I kind of hinted at earlier, it's peaks and valleys. When you don't win, it feels terrible. When you win, it feels amazing.
So the easiest question of all for you, David, before I move on to our third winner, will we see you back competing again next year?
I've got one contest to defend and 3 more to win. I'll be back.
Of course you will. Of course you will, my friend. And the very best of luck with it too. Thank you. So we'll see you shortly for the panel discussion. Our third guest this evening is Peter Redmond. There he is, waiting patiently in Dublin, and very sad effort by the boys in blue at the weekend. They're now out of the All Ireland Championship. If you're watching in the UK, you probably don't know what we're talking about. It's Irish football, and Dublin are gone. But tell us, Peter, which club are you a member of, and how long have you been in Toastmasters?
I'm a dual member of Clondalkin Toastmasters and Tala Toastmasters. I've been a member since 2012. I took a bit of a break. I was 2012 to 2019, and I just joined again last year. Had to get back into it. So about
Excellent.
8 years in total.
And your speech was pointed out to me as one of the high points of the weekend, and you might explain to people what it's about, because it's something that a lot of us can identify with.
Yeah, my speech was about my failure to put IKEA furniture together, and it was about all the trials and tribulations that so many people have experienced with trying to get flat pack furniture put together, and you end up with bits left over, and trying to figure out what bits join up to what bits, and looking at these little silly diagrams that are in the IKEA handbook and trying to match up that piece in the diagram to the piece that you have in your hand. So there was
one of the interesting things about writing humorous speeches, because Peter, if I haven't announced it already, is the humorous speech champion for District 71 this year, is that they tend to go through various iterations. So I've met people who've said, I go practice them, and then I will change whole sections of them depending on the reaction that I get. So was your speech fall into that category? Did you do much practice around the clubs?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wrote the speech initially. I essentially, when I was doing the speech, I wasn't writing the speech for the humorous contest. I was just writing a speech to do in the club. But as I was going through it, I thought, this could be funny. I could make this into a humorous speech. So I decided I would start from scratch on it and make it a humorous speech, because the setup was good. And as I went through the club and the area and the division and that, the feedback that I got really helped shape the speech. From the first draft to the first delivery, half of the speech was thrown away, so at least half of it. And from the club contest to the area contest, I changed a lot more as well. And one of the really interesting parts of it that I found was there was one part in the division contest where I accidentally put a pause in somewhere, and that got a laugh. And so then I said, oh, well, that's a funny bit, I'm going to keep that, and I added that in, and that was part of the final one in the division. And that it was an extra joke that I didn't even know was in there.
Oh, that's brilliant. It's like finding Easter eggs in videos. Back when I was a young man, it's a tremendous treat. So well done. Yeah. When you discover something is accidentally funny, and then you include it as a staple part of the speech. Now here's a question for you, Peter. When you're delivering a speech, in my experience, some of the jokes that you deliver, particularly at club, area, and division level, they work very well in Ireland. But when you come to the district level, you're now in front of a broader audience that includes most of the UK. So did you adjust the speech there, and did you stress test any elements of it for maybe things that an audience outside of Ireland might not recognize?
Yeah, it's a good question. I purposely picked a topic like IKEA that was international. So it doesn't matter where in the world you're from, you understand the trials and tribulations of that. But there was some wording that I was using. For example, there was a phrase that I used in it where I said I mitched off school, and that wouldn't work outside of Ireland, probably not even outside of Dublin, I don't know. So I changed that to bunking off school, which I thought would work better. So that the only time I used that differently was when I was in the UK for the division.
Right. And mentors, I asked Collator earlier, did you have a mentor who helped you, or were you flying solo all the way through?
I didn't have a specific mentor, but I mean, all of the club's feedback that we got, and particularly even at the after each contest, people would come up to me and say, "Oh, your speech was really good. Here's some tips to make it better." You know, just in person talking to me, and I mean, that's one of the great things about Toastmasters, that everybody is really happy to tell you their opinion and how you can improve things, and even fellow contestants were, you know, saying, giving me tips on how to get to the next stage and get to the next level. So I didn't have a specific mentor, but I mean, everybody who heard the speech had something to say and something to tell me.
That's excellent. Yeah, I mean, I've certainly found Toastmasters, even people who are your competitors, are often your best supporters when it comes to the next round, and you're the one that's still standing. Tell me, do you think that it's a bit of a shame that the humorous speech doesn't have legs, and there isn't maybe an international version of it? Would you like on mature reflection to have taken your IKEA story to an even bigger stage?
Yeah, I think that would have been great. And I think there's so many great speeches over the years that I've seen in the humorous speeches that they really, a lot of them deserve a bigger stage than just the district. I mean, they're incredible speeches. And the whole room would be rolling around listening to some of these speeches. You know, that people would pay in good money to hear some of these speeches. So yeah, I think absolutely they should really, you know, expand that and bring it to the wider audiences internationally.
Brilliant. And what would you say, Peter, to someone who's watching you here this evening and is thinking maybe of entering the humorous speaking contest next year? Would you suggest they go for it? And if so, what tips would you give them?
Oh, absolutely. The contests really help hone the craft of speaking. That it doesn't matter which of the contests that you're in, whether it's humorous or international speech or any of them. But even the speech grows at each level, from club, area, division, district, and you really can get to understand the nuts and bolts of what's going on within that speech. When I started writing the speech for the humorous contest, I decided I was going to do it in a sitcom style. So I wanted to set up a situational comedy, and this is my tip for writing humor speeches. And I wanted every sentence to be a setup for the next sentence that would have a punchline in it. So every single sentence had a joke in it, or a setup for a joke. Whether or not they all landed, you know, it doesn't matter. That there was something at least a little bit funny all the way through, so that I didn't have a whole paragraph of setup for a joke here, and then at the end there was, you know, I felt it was a really good punchline that the whole speech was a setup for. So it was doing the competition allowed me the chance to be able to hone that in, and then remove things that I didn't think were funny, or that the audience didn't think were. I thought they were hilarious, but the audience didn't think were funny, so I had to throw them away, and then bring in some more stuff, and really look at, why is that sentence there? What is that adding to it, or what is that setting up for? And also, I had a theme then with the Vikings. I had a Viking theme because it's from Sweden, and Vikings are also from Sweden. So I had that theme running through it as well. So it was I put a lot of work into the structure of how it went.
Brilliant. And just one final question for you, Peter. Did you tinker with the beginning and the end of it a lot, for how you would begin and finish the speech, or were they kind of anchors that remained fairly fixed all the way through?
No, everything was tinkered with. Everything. There was nothing fixed in it. I know if you were at the club competition and you were at the area competition, the division and the district competition, you would have heard slightly different speeches. The structure, the build was more or less the same, but you would have heard different jokes, different setups, and I worked all the way through each one, got the feedback, and then tweaked everything to improve it every single time.
Excellent. Well, another worthy winner, Peter. Well done. Bravo. Congratulations. We'll see you shortly for the panel discussion. And our fourth contender, I feel like I'm Magnus Magnuson here. Our fourth contender this evening comes live from Cambridgeshire, John Marsh, the winner of the District 71 Table Topics Contest. Tell us a little bit about how long you've been in Toastmasters, John, and what your clubs are.
So I'm in one club, and that is Huntingdonshire Speakers Club. And I have been with Huntingdonshire Speakers Club for about maybe 2.5 years, I think.
Okay, I'm having a little bit of difficulty. There's a little bit of whistling there with your microphone in the background there. So let's have another. So you've been in. Tell me again the clubs.
Yeah, at Huntingdonshire Speakers Club. Is that better?
Not really.
I can put some headphones on if that helps.
So I think it's a little bit of feedback. Like when you have the radio on when you are. It's all this technology. Earlier, when we were talking to collectors, pulling wires out left, right, and centre, collector in Peterborough. So it was amazing to watch. Mind you, she's an IT guru. Let's have another go then, John.
Yeah, I'm not an IT guru.
Oh, look at that. My goodness.
I am.
Not an IT guru. Well, you certainly are a sound expert guru because you've sharpened up no end there. Brilliant.
So, sorry.
One more time then. Tell our audience which clubs you're a member of and how long you've been in Toastmasters.
Yeah, so I've been a member of Huntingdonshire Speakers Club for about 2.5 years.
Brilliant. And just before I get stuck into the questions for you, John, anyone out there who has a question that they'd like to ask either John or Peter or David or Colleter, feel free to post it in the chat. There's options there in front of you. Just tap away and we will get to them shortly. So, John, the table topics, for those of you who don't know, it's a bit similar in mystery to the evaluation contest.
It is.
So you really don't know what you're going to be asked before you're asked it. And then the topic is delivered. What is it in life that makes you happy? And you've got to, for example, you've got to speak for a certain length of time on that. Do you do any preparation at all in advance before you hear the question?
Yes, I do actually. So I used to hate doing table topics. I really enjoyed doing prepared speeches. I really didn't like doing table topics. My mind would just go blank. And sometimes people would say afterwards, "Oh, I wish I'd said this. I wish I'd said that." My mind went blank. I couldn't even think about afterwards what I would say. So about 1.5 years ago, it was a little challenge for me. I said to myself, right, John, you've got to get on top of table topics. I think table topics is a really useful skill because, okay, it's great to prepare a speech, it's great to deliver it, but especially if you're at work, you're in a meeting, somebody fires a question at you, you think, what am I going to say? It's a very good skill to have. And I went on, I'm going to give my trade secret away here, but whatever. So I went on YouTube and there was a guy that won it last year, a Scottish guy. He's got blonde hair. I can't remember his name. And he's done
Kyle Murtagh.
Yes. Now he has done, I literally typed into YouTube how to win, I think it was how to win a table topics competition. And he has done a brilliant video that talks through how you prepare yourself, how you do it, and it was brilliant. I literally, there were some things that, to the letter, I used that video. And so one of the things that I did to prepare is long haul was we've got a pack of cards at Huntingdonshire Speakers Club that sometimes we use table topic cards. And every now and then, if I'm sitting at home, I've got a spare 10 minutes, I just pull one out and I would practice. I've got a little timer on my phone, the table topics timer, and I would just practice. And slowly you build up, without even realizing, unconsciously in the back of your head, a bit of a storyboard, really. So when I was asked the table topic that I was asked, okay, it wasn't to the letter, but I'd practiced a couple of months ago just something quite similar. And
Wow.
I remember thinking, oh, okay, because
But
there
you
are
must
similar.
think, I mean, when you hear something similar, you must go, all right.
Well, yeah, but there are topics. I mean, everything's quite, it's either going to be about the future, it's going to be about the past, it's going to be about
Yes.
now,
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you
So
can
what you're actually saying is not so much that there's a degree of good fortune about this, but if you do your research,
yeah,
you pretty much have the topics covered that they're going to ask you, and you've got a decent shot at any topic.
Yeah, and it's a long haul one. I started about, well, I can't remember. It must have been 3 months before. Okay, not crazy, but just a couple of times a week, I'd be sitting in the living room, have the place to myself, grab the pack, go through it.
Fantastic. Clearly not sitting on the bus next to someone, because
well, so you can go through it in your head, walking down the road's all right. Yeah.
Yeah, you might find you're the only even the bus driver gets off. But so that's very interesting, that there's a degree of research and preparation that goes into it beforehand. And then on the day, were you one of the first ones? Did you get to hear other people, or were you down near the back and you didn't get to hear anyone at all?
I think I was the first one. Yes, I remember. Wow. That's it, because I was the only one that stayed in the room. I was the first one. Yeah.
Okay, so there is in some sense an advantage in that, because you get to hear everyone else and you think, oh, well, they're pretty good. Actually, I can see why they're better than me. Or you might think, oh, well, they're not much of a threat.
I think, it depends. I think I always like going first. I know a lot of people don't like going first, but for me, you go first. And any competition you do, you get it over and done with. There's no waiting around. That waiting around can be really difficult in the room. Everyone gets a bit nervous. And you get it over and done with. It's done. And then you can sit down. You can enjoy the contest. The only problem I see with that is that you do sit there and you think, oh yeah, she was good, or oh, he was pretty good, or she got a lot of laughs, and then slowly you kind of like go down the pecking order in your own evaluation,
Okay, now here's a question for you in table topics, because in my experience, what they do is they read out the table topic right at the front of the room, and people who are brought into the room are normally right down the back. Is that where you were, or were you in the middle of the audience?
No, it was. I felt quite close to the stage this time, and I remember thinking, oh, I'd like a bit more of a lead up here to give me a bit more thinking time.
Yeah.
So the stage was here, and we were about 1 meter, 1.5 meters off the stage. But I've definitely seen competitions before where people literally walk around the whole audience, and you think, God, they got all that thinking time. But not a huge amount.
Well, they're doing their steps, you see, at the same time. That's what it is. But that extra 10, 15, 20 seconds can sometimes make all the difference.
Absolutely.
And I've seen people reach the podium where they normally have the question written down as well, and then they'll kind of look at it and fiddle around and adjust their tie before they move out. But none of that for you. You were up near the front, you leapt up and you got stuck in.
Well, also, one thing I've learned with table topics, I used to do, like I said, I didn't used to like table topics, and I used to do this thing where I'd start walking up on stage and sort of going like this, oh, I don't know what I'm going to say. What am I going to say about this? And I would start, no, even if you think in your mind, I don't know what I'm going to say. You go up, you take a deep breath, you look confident, and that is how to start. And I've noticed that if you do that, it's almost your body can actually trick your mind.
Right.
And you think, well, I got this now. I know what I'm talking about. It's okay. And also, even if at the end of the 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, it's been absolute nonsense what you've said. If you do all the vocal variety, the eye contact, the gestures, you might have a chance of winning. Who knows?
Yeah, I like it. And I think the fact that you have come at this not from the approach of I'm a Toastmaster and I want to win this contest, but you've come at it from a point of view of, I'm not very good at this table topics thing. I want to improve my impromptu and off the cuff speaking because it'd be useful to me in later life. I think that has given you an edge.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Lovely. One final question for you before I invite all the panelists back. There was a guy who used to do table topics in my day. He's about 7'12", a fella called David Jones. And he used to win a lot of the contests, and he would bound onto the stage, I think nearly putting his foot through the stage. He's that taller fella. And he used to take the approach that whatever topic came up, he would take the contrary view. So if it was, for example, don't rock the boat, he would say, absolutely, rock the boat, get up, stand up in the boat, shake it for all you're worth. And that was his approach to win table topics. Do you think there's any merit in that? Or do you feel that your scientific approach is the one that's cracked it for you?
Absolutely. I think, although it's difficult and you don't, like we were saying before, you've only got 15 seconds. You don't want to try and do too much. But I think if you can try and throw in an element of surprise or an element of, if the audience can think, wow, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, I think that's a really good thing to do. It can just give you that bit of an edge.
Lovely. John, it's been an absolute pleasure. I thank you all for to all four of our representatives, our D71 contest winners. We're going to have a couple of questions. If I invite you all back in through the magic of technology, you can all arrive in now. Elizabeth Jordan seems to be asking a lot of our questions. Our first one is Collator. Is she with us? Collator, I see you there on screen. So if you can see that, you are a wonderful storyteller. Is this a natural talent or is it down to practice? What do you say, Collator?
Thank you very much. Interestingly, it's something I have learned. Well, I do love to tell a story. Me and my girls love to tell stories. But then it's something you really learn. And I say what helped me was observe people who I enjoy listening to when they're telling me stories about their life and the way those people who really captivate me. I started studying what it is that made them so good. Why did I enjoy listening to them? And the two things I picked from that was, number one, they love adjectives. You have to fall in love with adjectives if you're going to be a good storyteller. Assume everyone who is listening to you is blind, because literally they are. They're not in your situation. They can't see what you have going on in your mind. And so you want to give them the most vivid picture possible. I believe that's the number one thing. And number two is out of my head, but I'll say it now. I did have two answers to her question, but I'll give her the number one. Thank you.
Perfect. That's no problem at all. And Elizabeth has a question for David. David, what tips can you offer for active listening under the pressure of a contest?
Practice would be one. The more you do it, the better. I think everyone has talked in some way about you keep on doing it and you get better at it. For me, I think what really sets evaluation apart is it's not always hearing what's there. It's hearing what's not there. And actually, if I was to draw upon Coletta's answer there, so if I'm listening to a story and I go, I can't see the scene, I can't see the character, I'll then go, well, what's missing? Why can't I see the scene? Why can't I see the character? So actually, I'm listening to what's not there. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, if that's not there, what could I suggest to make that there? Or if someone is, they're trying to make an argument, but I almost like, sometimes you listen to someone and you don't quite believe them. They don't sound like they've got the conviction and the boldness in the statement. I go, well, where could that conviction come from? Where could that boldness come from? So actually, I think an evaluation, active listening is good, but I actually think it's almost listening between the lines that really sets you apart for a great evaluation.
Lovely. That's another splendid answer. And Elizabeth has a question for John. John, did you wish for any particular topic to come up whilst you were waiting?
Oh, yeah. Well, I did practice, like I was saying before, I did practice. There was one that I practiced about having my favorite childhood memory. And I remember thinking, oh, if that one comes up, that'd be good. No, I don't think so. And I think, as I was saying before, I watched that video by Kyle on YouTube, which I recommend to everyone. It's great. And if you just put how to win a table topics competition Toastmasters, it just comes up. And one of the tips he gives is try and make your mind go blank, because I think that's actually really important. Because I think, and I have seen this before, you don't want to think, oh yeah, it's about that, and you've got your anecdote, and you try and force your anecdote into the question, because then it becomes really obvious that you've just gone up there and just done something pre-prepared. So yeah, I thought, oh, maybe if this comes up, that'd be good. But I did try and just make my mind go blank and have no expectations. I think that's quite important.
Lovely. And a question for Peter. Peter, when you're sitting there and they've called out the third place winner and the second place winner, and there's still 5 or 6 people in the running for the top spot, were you thinking to yourself, I have a shot, I have it in the bag, there's maybe I'm an outside chance, or look, I don't mind if my name is called, it's called?
Probably a bit of all of those. I was sitting there. I went into the competition hoping to get third place. That's really what my plan was. I said, if I come home with a prize, I'll be happy with that. And the speeches that because I was nearer the end, and the speeches were really good that were before me, and the second and third place speakers were really good. So I knew they were definitely going to be in. I think I probably would have put myself in third place. So I was expecting to, when I didn't hear myself being third place, I was saying, okay, I wonder who got first then. But I really was shocked that I got it, because I didn't hear my speech. And when you're up there delivering it, it's hard to know exactly what's happening on the floor. You can hear the laughs and stuff, but it really is hard to know. So it was, I was aiming for third. So happy to get first. I'm sure it was really close in the numbers.
Yeah, well, I mean, David mentioned the bronze medal being more important than the silver medal, and so you were aiming for third. You got first, and look, again, like Collator, for me, it was a clear winner. So I have a question for all of you now, and what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you in this order. I'm going to start with David, and then go Peter, and then John and Collator, for reasons that will be obvious in a second. So here's the question. The question is, when you enter a contest, all of the judges sit there and they fill out their entire ballots, right? But at the end, they just pull off the bit at the bottom that has a 1, 2, 3 on it. And they then destroy the other bit with all of the marking scheme on it. If there was a way to anonymize all of that data so you could see how you performed relative to everyone else, would you be interested in seeing that? In fact, would you pay to see it? And so that question goes to David first, or would you rather think, I've won, I'm through, I'm not going through all that business? What do you think?
Now I know why you asked me first. It's about evaluation. Yeah. So at Toastmasters, we have this obsession with evaluation, don't we? Everything gets evaluated. The people who do the evaluations also get evaluated. And then we go into contests, which is like the most high stress, high stakes thing that we do in Toastmasters. And we've got no idea why we finished where we finished. So yeah, I would 100% want to go and see the judging results. I want to see that breakdown. And I think I said this in my one-to-one of like, what's that difference between positions? Because then you start to see those small 1%ers that turn you from a good speaker into a great speaker into an amazing speaker. Even when you win, okay, yeah, winning's great, but you don't know if you just kind of sneaked the win because you were lucky or you really, aced the show. So yeah, I would 100% want to see the judge.
And could you? I'm gonna force you to. I'm gonna put a price on it. What would you pay for it, or would you just want to see it and you wouldn't pay for it?
I would pay more and more higher up the contests I go. I wouldn't pay very much for a club judging form, but a district or a world semi-final, yeah, I might be starting to go into three figures to pay for that.
Ooh, okay. And our next contender, please. So same question to you. You get the data from the contest. It's all anonymized, so you're comparing yourself against everyone else. Would you be interested in that, and would you pay for it?
I think if I won the contest, then absolutely no interest in seeing how close it was. Definitely don't want to know. And if I came, maybe it was like David's first, second, and third. If I was second place, I might have an interest. But in general, I've been to so many contests, and I've been a judge at contests, and I've wondered, the person who I gave number one vote to didn't come out anywhere in the contest in the first, second, and third place. And I'm thinking, it's so subjective that it is really, I wouldn't be getting any useful information, I think, from the judges thing. So in general, my answer would be no. I don't want to know.
Perfect. So we've got one sale and one refusal. What about you, John? Can I interest you in some knockoff results?
Absolutely not. I'm with Peter. I think for me, by the time you've got to a district competition, you have worked so hard, and when you get up there. I remember last year when I was in the humorous speech contest, before I went up, another participant just turned around to me and said, "You know what? We're just here to entertain everybody." And I just got up there, and that was the whole point, just entertain people. And I think by that point, I think people have made so much effort. You're really doing your best. I'm not really interested about 1 point difference and why not. And it can be so subjective. And what would I get out of that anyhow? No, not interested at all.
Perfect. All right.
Keep them. I don't want to.
Now, Collator, the reason I came to you last is because you're such a fledgling new member, and really, the results that you would be getting would be very positive indeed. So far, probably not a lot to compare with. But do you like the idea, or are you with John and Peter that you think it's not such a good idea?
No, definitely. I would like to know why I did not. I would like to know why I was number one and number two wasn't number one. I am very obsessed with that one, actually. And if I was number two, the opposite. That's for me. I really wouldn't care about all the other people. Just the top two. Because more often than not, I believe the number one feels like the number two did deserve to win. And so you want to know what set you apart, especially if you want to then replicate that success or use or understand those skills and apply them elsewhere. I would like to know, but I wouldn't pay for it before you ask me. No.
Okay, I'm still putting you in David's camp. You might not pony up the cash, but you're still interested in having a look at the data. And that's hardly surprising, given that you're an IT specialist. So we're beginning to come to the end of our session here. I do see, though, that my good friend Geeta Garg, who happens to be a long-standing member of Shilling Speakers, has joined us with a question, and it's quite a long one. But I've come over to LinkedIn in the hope that I can ask a question as I couldn't on YouTube Live. Would love to hear Peter's winning speech and its many other forms. In fact, would love to have been at the D71, D91 contest if they could stream the contest in the future. Cost, transport, mobility, and responsibility limits of possible enjoyment from the world. So I'm going to form a question out of that, and we will ask the question, our final question of the day, in the same order So here we go to David first. Do you think that the move back to in-person contests only is absolutely the right thing for Toastmasters International? Or do you feel that they're missing a trick by excluding people using technology just like this from being able to compete anymore? And whether, as Geeta says, whether it's people who can't travel because of their disability or their responsibilities. So is it the right thing to do to move back to in-person and on you go, or are they missing a trick? What do you think, David?
I think they're missing a trick, Anthony. I did an interview with Verity Price, who's the 2021 World Champion of Public Speaking. And she said if the contest hadn't been virtual that year, she wouldn't have entered. She had just had a baby, she had childcare commitments, and if she'd been doing all the physical contests, she wouldn't have entered. So we wouldn't have seen a world champion because of childcare commitments and all the other responsibilities that people have. And I think that COVID and going online has shown us that there is a hybrid reality. Even for myself, like I've traveled to the last 2 district contests in person. It's cost me about £1,000 each time. Certainly for the one in Ireland, it cost me about £1,000 to go. And I think we're pricing people out. And I don't think people should be able to compete, and they shouldn't be restricted by their mobility, by their childcare, by their work schedule, by their finances. The best people should be at the contests. And if we can set it up so that the best people are at those contests, well, that's how we learn. We're going to learn if we're seeing the best speakers. We're not going to learn if we aren't seeing half the speakers because they couldn't make the physical setting. So I don't think any of us want to go back to the fully online world, but I think giving people the opportunity to, at very least, attend hybrid would be a start. And I think there's still a place for competing hybrid as well.
Lovely. Thank you for that, David. What do you think, Peter?
Yeah, I have to agree with everything that was just said there. I think the hybrid approach is so much more useful and opens it up to so many more people. And I spent about £1,000, we've said, going over to do that, and that that's it's a lot of money to put onto a contestant to compete for in the competition. And if like we talked about earlier on, if the competition could be opened up after for the humorous speech to brought to a bigger audience, I think having video streams of the competitions where it is brought out to a bigger audience would be very useful. For so many people have asked me, where can I see your speech? And I said, well, it's done. That's it. You had one chance, and it would have cost you a lot of money to see it. And yeah, so I think absolutely it should be opened up.
Lovely. John?
Right, I could write a PhD about this. I'm going to try and keep it short. I completely understand what Geeta says, but I would say no. I agree with streaming stuff afterwards, the highlights, but I think the problem with this is, and I work in an office where a lot of people do not want to come in, human relationships have deteriorated. It can't be denied. And I think the one thing about going to a conference is it is wonderful to meet people face to face, to engage with them, and the interaction that you have just cannot be created online. I do think they need to look into the pricing. I think what they did this year was good, where you just pay. You didn't have to go to everything. You could just pay for going to the speeches and separate seminars. I think that's fantastic. I think we need to look into the reasons why people can't go, and maybe we should be helping those people to get there. But I think the problem with having it hybrid was that I think eventually people just wouldn't go to the conferences, and then I think we'd probably get to the point where what's the point of having a conference at all? Or we just stream it online, and let's be honest, because this happens to me day in, day out, none of that audience is engaged because they're looking at the mobiles or they're checking their emails. And so no. Although I completely understand we need to look into getting more people there. I think we can stream the humorous speeches, table topics afterwards, and so people can watch that. Great, but the conference needs to be face to face because it is it's special, and we need to keep that.
Excellent. So we're 2-1, and
Yeah.
the final vote, the deciding vote, goes to the youngest member of our troop. So, Collator, what say you?
Wow. This was hard for me because I haven't experienced the online version. But I will honestly say I just love the in-person thing. I'm tired of looking at my screen. I'm trying to not be addicted to my gadget because I already am. Any opportunity to get out of the house, I would rather save up for 5 years to make it to a conference, especially for something like this. If we are going to include the people who can't travel, maybe host separate competition, maybe we have, let's say, categories only for online and then categories for in-person competitions, and then to echo what John said, stream them after, because it's really good to have footage of the competitions even for ourselves. But that's where I stand. Let's keep it in person.
Well, there you are, and the final word goes to Geeta, who wants to see your speech, Peter, next year, so she can enjoy it online, and wishes you the very best of luck with it. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of this fascinating episode of Toastmasters Unplugged. When it came to the big meaty issues, we found that we were evenly split on both of the tough questions right at the end, 2 versus 2. And so we haven't resolved any of the big issues, but they are things still worthy of further contemplation. And if you're thinking about further contemplation, why not join us here at Toastmasters Unplugged for our next episode, episode 14, which features Luke Biddle and Nigel Smith. And that is, of course, on July the 9th. So mark that in your diary. Thank you very much indeed to our champions for joining us here today. You have been brilliant. You were brilliant on the day. You were all worthy winners. And it was fascinating to hear some of your secrets. Thank you for taking the time to share it with us today.
Thank you.